Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Darcey and Stacey. Let's get to the show. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and let's see if anything of interest comes out of my face.
This reminds me of the first time when I went to go see you in Albania, and then we drove to Greece.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so nice. I'd love to go back. You think maybe you want to go on a honeymoon there to Greece? Maybe Santorini or... It's like you're so talkative when we're in Albania, but then you're here, it's like forcing you to talk. Yeah, but I don't want it to be like that. I just want
Okay, so this is a common fight that couples will get into, maybe even friends, which is on the surface, what we see is that Stacey is criticizing Florian for not talking that much. She's saying, in Albania, you talk all the time, but now you're not talking at all. And you sense that she's frustrated, you sense that she's being critical, you sense that she is maybe a little angry at him. And then we look at his behavior, and he is not looking at her. He is saying, yes, my angel, and is seemingly blowing her off on the outside, seemingly indifferent. Okay, so that's what it looks like, right? She's being critical, you never talk, and he's being indifferent. Yes, my angel. But I know enough to know that there's stuff going on underneath there that is happening at the foundation that is not being expressed. I don't know, I would have to ask them, but it's always been true in my experience. For Stacey, underneath for her is a feeling of hurt, of he's not talking to me, and I feel rejected and abandoned, and it hurts my feelings. And then that it's too vulnerable to even recognize that in yourself, and people don't like to admit that they're hurt, and so they'll transform that into something because they've got to do something with it, and they transform it into anger because for some reason we're just so much more comfortable with anger than we are with hurt or pain. And so she gets angry, she feels angry, she starts having angry thoughts like, how come he never talks to me? This is BS. And that she yells at him or criticizes him. Well, what does that do? Well, it hurts his feelings. He's just sitting there probably, just minding his own business. Who knows? And now he's being criticized. Well, what does that do? Well, it hurts your feelings. And then you don't know what to do with that hurt feeling, so you transform it into anger. And one of the ways to express anger is to give the silent treatment. Yes, my angel. Yeah. So both people are expressing anger, one through indifference, one through criticism, while both of them are hurt in reality. And if they could communicate that hurt in a non-accusatory way, it almost always goes better. So with Stacey, it would start like, so Florian, you're being kind of quiet, which is totally fine. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. But I like kind of a back and forth, and when I don't get that from you, it hurts my feelings. And I know that's not your fault, because I know you don't intend on hurting my feelings. But I'm the sort of person, like, I want contact, and when I don't get that sort of verbal exchange with you, I feel like you don't really care and that you don't really love me. Which is, that's on me, it's not on you, but that's how it feels to me. Okay. That gives Florian the chance to feel your pain and say, oh, you're not accusing me of anything. I didn't do anything wrong. You're very clear about that, Stacey. I didn't do anything wrong. But you're telling me that you're hurt. And I love you. And so let me take care of that. People will, when people are not being accused, they will move in. Even strangers, you're on the street and you're just like, I don't know, you fall down, and people just, they do studies, and people naturally feel that urge. Oh, someone's hurt. Let me help. It's a human thing. We're very dependent on each other. We're very attuned and reactive to each other. A baby cries on the airplane, and your heart rate goes up. Why? Because you evolved to care, and your body is going, danger, emergency, do something about that baby, because that baby is in distress. Well, we're the same with each other. We're not just that way with babies. We're that way with everyone. So from Florian's point of view, if Stacey were to be critical, he could also reciprocate with this more advanced way of communicating, more accurate way of communicating. And he could say something like, okay, Stacey, I hear that You want me to talk more. And I'm just not a very talkative person, or I'm kind of tired right now, and I'm really sorry. And I know that that feels like I'm rejecting you, but I'm not purposely doing that. I'll try to talk a little bit more, but honestly, I'm really tired. I'm kind of jet lagged, and I'm just really sorry. I know I'm letting you down. It's not your fault. I'll make it up to you later. Something along those lines. Now, as always, people will hear me and they'll be like, well, that's a real corny way of talking, Kirk. I don't talk that way. Okay, I have two things to say to that. The first thing I say, if being healthy is corny, then be corny. And the second thing I'll say is put it in your own words. Follow the principles of it, but put it in your own words. However you phrase it, it's your words. I'm just demonstrating a kind of therapist-y way of saying it, but put it in your own words. And I've had clients do that. They'll be like, that's kind of corny. And I'll say like, well, if being corny, if being healthy is corny, then I recommend being corny. Because that's the other thing is it'll feel corny because it'll be like, well, that sounds like such a weird way of talking. The fact that it's weird and corny might indicate it's healthy. Because if you look at your life and your past, you might see an endless stream of unhealthy communication. So when healthy communication comes your way, you might go like, whoa, that's weird sounding. And just because it's weird to you doesn't mean that it's bad. The fact that it's weird might actually indicate it's good. Anyway, let's continue watching.
I want it to feel natural. Natural? I don't know.
Do you just not show excitement on your face?
I'm excited right now.
So this is excited, Florian.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. People don't, sometimes people don't express very much. We would say that Darcey and Stacey, particularly Darcey, has shown that they express their emotions very openly. Not 100%, obviously, but a lot more open than some others. And Florian is very subdued. And actually, sometimes those people will fit together. People that are very expressive with their emotions might fit well with someone who's very inexpressive, because as this person amps up the emotional tension, the less expressive person will kind of balance the other person out. This person will bring this person to be more expressive, and this person will bring this person down from expressiveness. The other thing, as I always say, is that this is an indication potentially of avoidant attachment. When we've been neglected emotionally or physical warmth when we're young, we keep reaching out for love and attention, and eventually we find out that it's really just never coming. Well, we just turn ourselves off from other people. We don't turn off our needs. We still have our needs that are being unmet, but we're just like, I give up. And you just sort of decide, you know what, I'm not gonna reach out. I'm not gonna expect. I'm not gonna trust, and I'm not going to express. And what's the point in expressing my emotions? Because no one cares about my emotions, and there's no point in me even really recognizing my own emotions, because if I recognize my emotions, I have an urge to express them, and if I express them, then I'm going to get rejected. Let's just call the whole thing off, and let's just ignore emotions altogether. And I'll just be this robot, this logical robot that has no feelings or has a fantasy that I don't have any feelings. And, it's not the best situation, but it's better than feeling and expressing and being rejected. So I don't know. We don't know much about Florian at all, but, it's just one data point. Let's continue watching.
That was weird. I heard something. Did something...
Stop. We're done.
I'm trying to turn it off. I don't even know how.
Whoa!
I don't know. I don't know how to turn it off.
Stop, not that.
So this is terrible. I mean, they're fighting, but it is a comical situation as Florian is trying to catch the windshield wiper. It's terrible that I'm laughing, but it is kind of comical. But I don't know. Hopefully they can sort of take it easy on each other. It's under, it's like she doesn't know how to turn it off, and it's okay. Everything's fine.
Are you touch? No touch, nothing.
Coming up?
Yikes. Interesting. So we're getting to know Florian a little bit more. Yeesh.
No, touch nothing. Leave it alone.
I haven't touched it. Only when you tell me.
Off the car. Off the car, off the car. Off the things, off the this, off the this.
What are you doing?
Off.
What are you doing?
Come with me.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing.
What's the problem? What's the problem? I'll fix it later.
No
It
possible.
won't let.
You crash. You like to crash everything on?
Fix it later.
No possible, my boy. No possible. You're dumb.
Wow. I mean, so at first I'm laughing at it because, oh, it's kind of funny. He's trying to catch the thing. This is interesting. I wonder what Florian is being triggered by here. What's going on with him? Maybe we'll get to know. You know, it seems like he has at first he just seemed like such a happy-go-lucky guy, go with the flow sort of guy, and clearly he's not. So maybe we'll understand his traumas as we move forward.
Leave it alone.
You're the one trying to fix it in the rain.
What's
Okay.
the possible driving?
Florian is definitely hot-headed. He says things and, sounds crazy. I know you're just trying to help.
Okay, interesting. So we hear from Stacey that Florian is hot-headed. So, another data point. So she's seen this behavior before, I'm guessing?
Couldn't figure out how to turn it off. But he needs to stop losing his damn mind over this windshield wiper. Happens. Oh, we'll fix it later, don't worry. I hope you like our new place, babe.
I have fast temper. My blood is hot. It's my personality.
If I was to speculate based on the very little information before us, it seemed like it came from a childish place, a sort of frustration place. If for those of you who have kids, 10-year-olds, you might find that they will have meltdowns like this where they're just very frustrated with you, and maybe, you're trying to help them with something and they just kind of lose their mind because it becomes, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like unbridled frustration that comes from like someone else is messing up my stuff, sort of thing. I wonder, what's going on there with him with that. Now he's saying it's his personality. It's kind of a red flag there because it's one thing to occasionally lose your temper. And so there's different levels to it. I'd say like on the most healthy level, if you lose your temper, sometimes you're like, you know what? Yeah, sometimes I lose my temper and it's a bad thing and I have to change it. Down from there is, I don't lose my temper. I don't know what you're talking about. Down from there is, yeah, I lose my temper. It's just a part of my personality. So it's one of the lowest forms of that realization because in all likelihood, he's been told so many times or he's realized so many times that he loses his temper that he's surrendered to it. He's like, well, it's just how I am. And people are just going to have to deal with that because I've tried to change it. It hasn't worked. And so I've just accepted it into my life. And or I believe that I deserve to be this way or something. I don't know. It's concerning. Let's continue watching.
I yell to her, but I love her.
Okay, so he said, I yell to her, but I love her. So there's a good message in there of just like, well, I love you. But I wonder what's going on there. Is it his family yelled at each other a lot, and that's how they it normalized it? In his family or in his town, was it more customary to scream at each other that way? And it's not as much of a sign of disdain or contempt. I live in Seattle, which is considered to be one of the nicest. So there's pros and cons. What people will say is that Seattle is very nice, but on the con side is they can be very passive. Now people say passive aggressive, which is a little weird to me, but essentially what they will observe in people is people will almost never be directly confrontational. and they will be indirectly confrontational. So it's not like people don't have anger in Seattle, they'll just express it in this very indirect way. Now, I've actually looked into the research on this, and there's nothing that demonstrates that Seattleites are more passive than other towns. Measuring personality is hard to do anyway, and trying to compare the personality of someone from Seattle versus someone from Manhattan is extremely difficult. You'll hear a lot of anecdotes. A lot of people will claim, oh, people are in LA, they're all like this, and in St. Louis, they're all like this, and they're just stories you tell each other, and maybe it's an indication of slight deviation of the mean one way or the other, but I've looked into the research a lot. Because people, I don't know if you know, if you're not from the area, but there's this thing called the Seattle freeze. And it's this notion that in Seattle, people will move here and experience this, that they're frozen out of all relationships, that it's really hard to make friends and this sort of thing. Well, I've lived in Seattle my whole life, and I've never had trouble making friends, and I've never had trouble inviting friends into my life. A lot of the friends that I have are people from out of town. So I don't know, and I don't consider myself to be that strange of someone from Seattle. And I'm Japanese, which is, reserved in addition to being, and I'm Swedish, which is even more reserved. Anyway, the point is that, meaning that I come from a reserved Swedish immigrant from the mid-1800s, reserved immigrants. Anyway. Point is that I've been asked a long time throughout my career about this Seattle freeze thing, and I've looked into a lot of the research, and there's been no evidence of that. But this is all to say, Florian, does he come from a town where yelling at each other, there's a different sense of what that means? Whereas from Seattle, that's why I was saying that, from Seattle, if you're very, like one of the things that people will notice right away, if they're coming, if people from Seattle go to Manhattan, people from Manhattan go to Seattle, they will notice one difference that's very clear, is that people in Seattle do not honk at each other. And people in Manhattan honk all the time. So what is going on there? Well, in Manhattan, it's customary when someone's annoying you that you honk. You're just like, oh, that person's annoying me, honk. And it's not that big of a deal. It's just like, yeah, you're being slightly bothersome, honk. Or, hey, I'm here, honk. Or just like, I just like the way my honk sounds. It just seems that way in Manhattan to me. People are just like, huh? People will be in standing traffic on one of the main boulevards there. And everyone is at a standstill. It is a parking lot. And people will be honking. And it's like, what do you think is going to happen with that honk? Oh, I'll move out of the way. I didn't realize that I was stopped and I have an option to move forward. No, none of us can move forward, a-hole. Stop honking your horn. Anyway, point is, in Seattle, to honk is a big deal. So you would only honk in Seattle if someone really crossed the line. Like on the scale from 1 to 10, where like 10 is you nearly kill someone and 1 is like, you barely did something wrong. And 5 is a midway transgression, like they cut you off in the freeway or something. Well, in Seattle, you don't honk unless it's like a 9. Whereas in Manhattan, you honk when it's a 1.5. And so in Florian's town, who knows, maybe when something's bothering you, you start screaming. And everyone's just used to that. Whereas Stacey and Darcey come from a town where you don't scream at that level of annoyance. So that sometimes can be a difference too, and this is sometimes where cultures will clash and where couples won't understand each other. And in therapy, I explore these issues. I would actually say, in your town, how fast is it that people yell at each other? In your family, how fast do people yell at each other? Now, I don't let people use that as an excuse to yell at people, but it is a starting point of trying to understand each other. We might find in the end in couples therapy, if I were to treat them, that maybe Florian has to tone it down. I'm not saying that it justifies, just because it's a cultural norm doesn't mean that you're justified in doing it to someone else, but it does provide some understanding. Let's continue watching.
Okay, we'll call at 3 o'clock in night. I can wake up. No problem for wake up.
So you want to meet 3 o'clock tonight?
Yeah. No problem.
Not me, I'm sleeping.
My dad and Florian are creating a bond. It just warms my heart that they're accepting him.
I love to talk old people. I know it's no about me. I love to talk old people, understand?
Yeah, it
I
just
feel good.
So I don't know if I'm just looking into this, and I don't know if that's why they're showing us this clip, but Stacey's a lot older than Florian, so I don't know. You know, just I'm sure you all are thinking that, so who knows?
There's been some noise, as you know, some photographs.
Yeah.
You and another woman. What is that all about? Is that real, not real, or what?
For the come here, dude. I don't know. It's for the pictures, but I know it says he's forgive me, so I'm good.
So yeah, it's a pretty uncomfortable situation. Your future father-in-law is taking you out on a trip and you feel like, oh, I'm going to bond with my future father-in-law. And now he's blasting me about these pictures. Now, if you have an innocent explanation for it, just say it. I don't know if we've heard it yet. He's just saying, no, she was a friend. Doesn't look like that. Could be that. If it was just a friend, you would think there'd be more details to convince Stacey and the father and us as the viewing audience that is true, what's going on. Like you could make it, I could see a lot of situations where that might be true. It's like, no, this is a childhood friend. This is a very good friend of mine. And we've never dated. And yeah, we take pictures that are really close to each other, but she's like a guy to me. She's like a sister to me or something. Like there's nothing going on between us. If I heard something like that, it, lends itself to some credibility. If he said something like, well, she kind of likes me, so when we take pictures, she gets real close, and I'm a nice person, so, like, okay. I personally have been in that situation where I don't like to reject people, and so if someone wants to take a picture, a selfie, they might get real close, and I'll just be like, oh, okay. And if you looked at a picture like that, you might just be like, whoa, look at those two, and I'd be like, I just stood there, and they took the picture. Now, in one picture, Florian has his shirt off. They look like they're in bed or something. So I don't know. Some more detail from Florian, I think, would be helpful. Now, a lack of detail and sort of shady behavior and anger response here, we're starting to look at some red flags of some cheating that's going on. Now, the other thing that I could see, a scenario that Florian could have happened, which is, look, if he's talking to a friend or if he's talking to Stacey, he might say something like, look, Stacey, you and I have been together for 4 or 5 years, but it's been long distance. We've seen each other 8 times over 5 years. And there was a lot of times when we were not with each other. And to be honest, there were some times when I really just wondered if our relationship was ever going to, go to the next level. And during one of those times, I met this other woman, and we started flirting, and I just thought at the beginning, well, we'll just be friends. But to be honest, it felt really good to have someone in my hometown actually there that I could feel, and emotionally. And we had a bit of an emotional affair, and I'm sorry for that. But then when you said that I was going to come out to the States and we were going to get married, and I put all that behind me, and I'm here now, and you can trust me. And I'm sorry. I basically emotionally, nothing happened with us physically, but something happened emotionally, and that's what the pictures are basically reflecting. And I know that's terrible, and let's work on recovery from that. I could see that absolutely being the scenario. But most people, they're not willing to have those conversations. They just want to sweep it under the rug, I guess, and I'm not accusing Florian of anything, but we'll see what happens here.
It's look. I understand. You look something. It's look more in what you think in your head. Yeah. Something your imagination or something. I understand.
Nothing there.
No.
So that's it. That's all that he says is it's just in your imagination. Nothing was there. No details. No convincing stories. It's not a good indication. But like I said, if it is something bad, I could see a lot of different scenarios. I could see on the best case scenario, it's what I just role played earlier in terms of I had an emotional affair because I was so lonely all the time because I never got to see you in person. And then I could see at the other end of the spectrum where he's some sort of psychopath who cheats on people and doesn't care. And I could see something in the middle. There's just no way to know.
Then we will be good.
I didn't know that Deb and Raina saw the photos. I'm assuming Darcey probably shown them. I didn't think that this will be a topic of conversation. Florian's not gonna like it. And I just hope that he doesn't get upset. I felt betrayed. And I was hurt. And he knows that.
I understand.
But at the end of the day, I choose to believe him. And he said he learned a lesson.
Okay, so I don't predict that this interaction is going to go very well because Florian, to this point, hasn't had a very convincing story as to why those pictures showed up on the internet. And it doesn't mean that he's lying, but it just means that it's not very convincing, at least to me, and I don't think it's been super convincing to other people as well. He's provided a story to Stacey, he's provided a story to Stacey's dad, and now I'm guessing he's going to reiterate that story to the friends, and I'm guessing the story isn't going to be any better than the one before, and it's not going to be very convincing. And I think Raina, the friend, is the sort of person that is going to really lay into Florian about this, so let's watch.
I want to hear it from him.
Florian, let's
Don't speak for him, honey.
Honey, talk to
Florian,
us.
tell
I'm
us
just gonna
what
zip it.
Listen to me. I understand. I understand this look more than bad. Nobody
None of us.
It's the past is past.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know, but that seemed edited to me. It just had that feel to it where they took out something in the middle. Now, maybe it was a inconsequential space of saying nothing or whatever, but I'm curious if they took something out of there because they want us, the viewer, to be against Florian. Who knows? But anyway, let's continue watching.
It's everybody. All the care just in like for pictures. First I talked in conversation with Stacey, and then was the Darcey, was the Mike, the dad. You don't need like friends to question me for no reason. Stacey believed in me.
Before you two tie the knot, we just wanted to make sure that he's here for the right reasons.
So it is a valid complaint from Florian that he has explained himself to Stacey, to the dad. They both accept his explanation. They've moved on. Now the friends are laying into him. So on one hand, I can see where Florian is coming from. He's thinking, Stacey is sitting right here and she has heard my explanation and she believes me. So I don't know why I need to justify myself to you two people. But on the other hand, these two people are her friend, they're her friends, and they're concerned. And there's a way to answer this question in a differentiated way, in a mature manner, to be like, yeah, I'm glad that you're concerned about your friend. I've told everyone else in the family, but I guess I'll tell you that it's just a friend and it was a mistake, and the story that he tells. Now, it's not very convincing, but what are you going to do? Now, as a thought experiment, let's make some assumptions that we just don't know about. Let's say he is lying. Let's say that he did do something inappropriate. Let's say that he has had either an emotional and or physical affair on Stacey. I've talked before about that wouldn't be uncommon given the fact that for 5 years they only saw each other 8 times. It wouldn't be uncommon to get a little lonely and maybe have some slip-ups here and there. Now, I'm not justifying it in any way, but it's not the best of circumstances to get your attachment needs met when you don't have any contact with your spouse. There's research on this. Listen to my whole deep dive on long-distance relationships. I can't remember the exact stat, but at any rate. So let's assume that he did cheat in some way. Well, he is exhibiting behavior that is in line with that. I don't know, obviously. But short stories usually indicate that you're trying to avoid getting into something, because the more you get into it, the more lies you have to tell. And so often when people lie, they will give very, very short stories. Like say your 7-year-old kid is in the kitchen and you hear a big crash. And you go in there and the cookie jar is on the ground and the cookies are everywhere. And you say, "What happened?" And the kid says, "I don't know." And you're like, "What do you mean you don't know?" Like there's a broken thing on the ground. What happened? "I don't know. I was just walking by and it just broke." Okay. So if it was true that happened, if a 7-year-old was just walking by and it just broke, then, under the best of circumstances, meaning that the kid actually isn't afraid of you terribly and actually trusts you, which, has to do with how you raise the 7-year-old. But anyway, you come into the kitchen and you see, and you ask the 7-year-old, "What happened?" And the 7-year-old's like, "I don't know. I was walking by and I thought I heard something. And then I heard this crash and I turned around and everything's broken. And I don't know what happened." So you hear a little bit more detail there, because it's easier to tell the truth than it is to lie. To tell the truth, there's this very quick process in the brain of gather memories, form the words and say them. Whereas with lying, and they prove this neurologically, you have to look to your memory, then you have to look to the story that you want to tell. Then you have to, okay, is that story going to get me in trouble? Then you have to sort of check it with your memory. Then you have to remember what you maybe said another time when you lied, formulate what you're going to say, and then say it. So it's a lot more labor to lie. And generally speaking, when people lie, they will conserve that energy by saying very little. So that's what Florian is doing. I don't know if he's lying, but given what he's doing, I guess it's possible. The other thing that people will do when they lie is they'll get angry to put up a smoke screen. Like, let's go back to the kid that is in the kitchen. And the mom comes into the kitchen, "What happened here?" And the kid's, "I don't know." And the mom says, "What do you mean you don't know? Look what happened. How come you're always accusing me of everything?" Okay. So people learn through habit that if they lie and then they get angry, usually that will divert the person away from the lie, and you can maybe get away with something. This is usually rewarded in a family, and you learn that behavior over time, dysfunctionally speaking. Usually it's either inconsistent parenting or even abusive parenting will necessitate the development of these kinds of behaviors as a child, which can be perpetuated into adulthood. So we see those two behaviors, at least in this moment. He is giving a short story, and now he's starting to get angry. Again, I can see his point where he's thinking, why do I have to justify myself to these people? Now, I don't know if there's some kind of sexism thing going on here, because with the dad, he was certainly very up for it. With these two, he's not up for it. Or there's some kind of value of family versus friends. I don't know what's going on, but let's continue watching.
For you.
Listen to me. I'm come here to respect the Stacey friends.
Of course.
No, but you need so much questions.
Florian, you're thinking into it too much. It's just question.
Okay, so he's pushing back. He's saying, I don't want to answer these questions anymore. And then the other friend says, you're thinking about it too much. We're just asking questions. That was a good tactic. It's just like, look, we're not against you. We just want to know. And if the truth is good, then we just want to know the truth. And so just tell us what's going on here. And that's a good tactic to take. It's just like, look, I'm not assuming that you're guilty. I'm just looking to be reassured. And that's maybe another thing you can say when you're in a situation like this. Look, Florian, I want to believe you, but just give me more details so I can trust you. But the little bit you've told me thus far doesn't inspire me to believe you. But I'm open. Tell me more. Who was this woman? How? What? Why did she take so many pictures? Why'd you have your shirt off and it looked like you were in bed with her? Help us. Tell us the story. Because if it was innocent, there would be a story. Similar to the boy in the kitchen would say, like, I was walking by I was grabbing a paper towel, and then I hear this crash, and I turn around, and everything's broken, and then you came in the kitchen. You see, and it's very quick. There's no like checking in with your head. It's just like, how do I lie? So there could be a story like that, where it's just like, I was out, we were drinking, or I don't know, what would be a viable story here? Well, she looks like she's dressed in like night clothes, because I was going to think, well, maybe it was in the morning and she was getting him for breakfast time or something, but she looked like she was in night clothes. So what would be a viable story? It would be something like, there was a bunch of people, so that maybe that's the story. There was like 15 people. There's 15 friends, and there was a pool at the hotel, and my friends were there too, and she was just one of the people that was there. And I had my bathing suit on, and I came in from the pool, and she was like, hey, take this picture with me. And she was taking pictures with everyone. And I was like, okay, she's a friend. And so I sat down and we took a picture. Okay. So you see, if he told a story like that, we wouldn't know if he was lying or not, but at least it would provide some story that seemed credible, other than him saying, she's just a friend, stop asking me. You know what I mean? I can't tell if he's lying or not. I can't tell if he cheated or not. I have no idea, but this is starting to raise questions the way that he's answering.
He doesn't like questions.
I can talk about it. Thank you.
We just want everything to be peaceful, but we have to meet you first, and you have to pass the friend test thing. We're asking you if we can trust you.
Listen to me, please.
We're asking you, can we trust you? Can Stacey trust you?
Okay, so we're starting to see evidence that he is starting to feel stress, that his stress level is going up. He's getting agitated. His voice is getting a little bit more firm. We've seen him have meltdowns before when it came to the windshield wiper. I suspect he's going to explode, because he goes from 0 to 10 very quickly, and he's done this in the past. He doesn't seem to have any way out of this other than to just say to people, back off. Or it was just a friend, and he usually with Stacey and Darcey and the dad, he was just very short and he was smiley, but he was just, and they backed off. The friends aren't backing off, and so I can't imagine that this is going to go well. I can't imagine how this foursome is going to turn this around, but maybe they will. Let's see.
No, don't tell me to shh. You shh.
I don't need to question me, nobody, all right? I hear the question.
You don't want to answer them, I get it.
I don't care for answer, please.
Okay.
You don't know me, okay?
I'm just
I don't need 100 times you ask me.
Florian, you know why? Because listen.
You're going to marry her. That's for life.
Hold on.
It's an interesting mode that Florian goes into. English is his second language, so it's hard to know how he would be communicating if he was in his own language. Just imagine trying to have a conflictual, weird conversation like this in front of cameras in a different language that you have, a 50% grasp on. That would be very hard. So who knows? But the way he comes across is, I don't know what the word I want to put to it. So I'll just give it the behavioral markers. He's very short in terms of his words. He doesn't say a lot. There's not a lot of eye contact. He seems to be pushing people away. He seems to be upset and agitated. He's not really reaching out. He's not saying, friends, I get it. I get that you're upset. There's not a lot of empathy or exhibiting empathy. He seems to be kind of getting a tough attitude. Now, what age, that's always a question that we want to ask, is what age does that exhibit? If I describe that to you, someone who is being ornery and quiet and no eye contact and agitated, giving attitude, not having a lot of empathy, putting up a tough front, what age would you say? Well, I think most of us would say 15 years old, 13 years old. By the way, as a family, I don't treat families anymore, but for the first 15 years of my career, I treated about a third of my clients were families, and 95% of the families that I saw were struggling with a 14-year-old. Sometimes a 13-year-old, sometimes a 15-year-old, but there was this huge bell curve of 14-year-olds. And so people out there, maybe there are 14-year-olds watching right now. 14 is a tough year. It's a very, very tough year on average, emotionally, behaviorally. You're very much a child because you're 14, but you're feeling the pressure of growing up. You're feeling the pressure of high school. You're feeling the pressure of peer interactions. You're feeling the pressure of romantic interactions and your identity. And there's just a lot of expectations put on you. And yet you feel very much like you're still 7 years old in a lot of ways, but you're trying to act like you're 35. Now, it's not all 14-year-olds for sure. Hashtag not all 14-year-olds. But anyway, when I see this attitude from him, that's the kind of vibe that I would get. I'm very familiar with that vibe. Family therapists get very, very familiar with the 14-year-old vibe that they will get. Again, not all 14-year-olds, but the ones that end up coming to therapy anyway. So why would Florian regress to a 14-year-old state? I don't know. We know nothing about his childhood. We're getting to know a little bit about his reactivity, and he seems to be decompensating in that way. He's stressed out. He feels cornered. There's a number of different possibilities, and I'll rattle off the two that I would think would be the most likely. One is that there is something to what those pictures were portraying, either full-blown infidelity or minor flirting that he just doesn't want to talk about. So if that happened in the past, it would produce this kind of attitude where he feels trapped and he doesn't feel adept at being able to convince people of something. And so he's just putting up that smoke screen of like, get out of here, you people, push, trying to push people away because he doesn't know how to dodge and weave his way out of the situation, and doesn't feel like he can admit, yeah, you know what, sometimes I flirt with people and that's a problem of mine. He doesn't feel like he can admit that or something. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that nothing happened with that other woman, and he just has a really hard time dealing with pressure. And I guess when I say it like that, that would lend itself to a trauma narrative, meaning that it lends itself to the possibility of him being traumatized somehow, traumatized by pressure, traumatized by questions. A lot of people have been traumatized by pressure and questions. I don't know, but that's the other possibility that I would explore. Of course, there's thousands of others that could be possible, but given what we've seen, those are the two that I would pursue with him if I were to talk to him.
Listen to me, please. I care more than you. Trust me. I can do it for everything for her.
Florian, here's why.
Look at my side. Get you, all right?
Listen to me.
Okay, so you see that attitude. If I said to you that some women were asking questions of someone and that person was saying back off and using a lot of swear words, that's a teenage thing to do. There's an adult version of this, right? Of, hey, I get your questions, but I'm getting a little frustrated right now, and could we just take a break from the questions because it's triggering to me, or I care about you guys and I get it, but I'm having a hard time relaxing with this pressure. So could you just give it a second? Or even just being quiet and saying, yeah, well, I don't know what to do. And then getting up, going to the bathroom, getting your breath, coming back. There's adult ways of dealing with pressure that you don't like. This is kind of a teenage, childish way of dealing with it. Now, I'm not saying Florian is childish. We've seen a lot of people regress on this show and various reality TV shows that I review. People will regress all the time. I regressed earlier today, just an hour ago when I was in a meeting. I regressed. I felt myself feeling like a younger person, and I had more immature thoughts and more immature behavior, I would say. All of us do it. So I'm not insulting Florian when I point that out. But anyway, so that's what Florian is doing. He's trying to push away, trying to be hostile right now. I don't think, maybe the other friend with the shorter hair might sort of try to back off, but I can't imagine Raina backing off. Now, maybe Stacey will save the day and say, friends, I get it. I'm with Florian. Look, I believe him. You don't have to ask any more questions. Let's talk. Let's change the subject. Maybe Stacey will save the day.
Hold on.
Everybody just slow down, slow down.
They're not attacking you.
Stop getting upset.
Relax, relax.
Please.
They're not judging you.
It's okay, babe.
Oh,
Going.
I'm not coming here, blah, 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 my but it's not have so much option. This kind of like.
Where are you going?
Okay, interesting. So it's not a bad idea for him to separate if he is having a meltdown emotionally, which I believe he was. It's not a bad idea to do. Just be like, I need to take a break. And he just could have said that. He just could have said, I'm having a meltdown right now. I need to take a break. I'll be back in a second. I'm sorry if it feels like this is abrupt, but I'm going to say something I'm going to regret, and I just need a break. Nothing wrong with that. If people did that more, the world would be a better place. But that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, you're stupid, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to live this life anymore. I'm out of here. You know, sort of like, screw you guys. You know, I'm going home. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to think of this. What am I looking for? Well, I guess I'm hoping Stacey and Florian work out because I think both of them are hoping that it's going to work out. So, if I hope that, then what I hope is that this relationship between Florian and the friends can be revisited at a later time in a way that doesn't produce this. I don't have a lot of confidence in that because Florian, right from the beginning, seemed highly defensive. So this doesn't bode well.
Next time on
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. If you haven't already subscribed or hit the bell below, that'd be cool if you want. If you want to like the video or downvote the video, that's also up to you. If you want to comment below, what do you think about what I've been saying, or what sort of thoughts has this triggered in you? Share your life. We're all trying to help each other. Try to help each other in the comment section as well. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.